Hey guys, I'm Phoenix here, and let's talk tips and tricks for wiring logic systems in Stationeers. Now the first thing that I've learnt is that if you are building a system and it's hooked up to your main power grid, it's also going to be hooked up to the data lines for everything else. This can be a bit of a problem, so when you are actually building your system, it's actually a good idea to disconnect it from the power grid. Then you are only going to see the data of everything that it's connected to. Downside there is that you won't be able to test it without reconnecting your system. Possible fix for this might be putting an APC on the line. Theoretically that would then only give you a power connection rather than a data system for everything. But I haven't tested it, so I could be wrong. Now I am going to just very quickly test to see if this system works. So by turning on the heater, theoretically this should warm up the room. Probably a bit slowly because it's quite a big room, but we can then start, as that does it, we can then start talking about other little useful bits and pieces. So logic systems, by their name, they are logical. There is a certain logical flow to them. So I've started using these logic pylons, and it allows me to set out the system in a way that makes sense. So this wall, actually let's start with this wall. So this wall here literally just has the temperature LED upon it, and this will give a readout for, what I wanted from here was I wanted to be able to see what the temperature was without necessarily using the UI, because theoretically if you weren't in your suit, I don't think you would actually see that information. I'm not going to test it because I'm wearing my suit in order to survive, but yeah. Anyway, so moving around, this wall is for reading information. So we have our temperature sensor, and that is currently reading pressure for some reason. Why is that reading pressure? It shouldn't be, it should be reading temperature. Okay, I'll have to work out quite what's going on there. Yeah, that should be reading temperature. Maybe it just claims that it's reading pressure, but it should be reading temperature anyway. Anyway, that should be reading temperature. Now, we've also got a logic writer here. So this is basically reading the information from there, and it's writing that information to various things. And the main thing that it's writing that one is writing the information to the LED screen. Then moving around, we have our, action systems, things that are actually going to be doing something with that information. So we have a min-max unit here, which theoretically should output if the this is less than that, I think. If it's less than the minimum, I think this is how it works. So it's going to take the two data, the max data and the min data, and then output if it's less, and then it's going to take that same information and kick it out if it's greater, and that will hook up to some readers over here that will activate the heater if it's too cold, and if it's too hot, it will activate the cooler. Now the cooler doesn't have everything hooked up to it yet. It still needs a connection over to the air conditioning units, which still haven't been built yet. And yeah, so it needs a coolant of some description. And so yes, there will be some logic I/O systems over here just to test that out. Now, the next tip, name all your stuff logically, because even if you do cut the cable, it's a lot easier to deal with named units, and I'm going to wander over to another system in a second. I'm going to wander over to it now, and you can kind of see the difference between the two systems. So that is a half-built system over there. This is actually a fully built combination lock. I'll just take all of these off. This is a fully built combination lock, and I will go into this in more detail in a different video, but it's more just to illustrate the fact that if you've got lots of math units on the system and multiple compares and all sorts of things, it's an awful lot easier to ensure that everything is named, simply because you're going to be able to find things an awful lot easier. And that's pretty much it. That's sort of my main sort of little tips and tricks for logic systems, how I've been working things. I should also note that you can pass pipes and wires through solid blocks. You just need to disassemble the block first, run the cable through, and then weld it back up again, which I think is a really nice thing to do, especially here where you've got an airlock, which can be quite a wide object, so it's actually a bit of a pain to run the cable through the wall. It's actually a lot easier to just go straight through the block. And yeah, so that's my little tips and tricks for logic systems. I hope that it helps some people if you're getting a bit confused about things. And in my next video, I'll be going through the combination lock in a lot more detail. So with that, I will say thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.